The beautiful thing about tournament fishing, especially on the school level, be it college down to the elementary school level, it doesn't discriminate.
Right.
Doesn't care if you're male, female. Doesn't care what color you are, what country you came from, what religion you are. Doesn't care if you're, a little pudgy or tall and skinny. The fish just either bite your hook or they don't. They care whether you're a good fisherman or not.
Yeah.
They don't care who you are. And the best thing to me about high school and youth fishing is if you're on the team, everybody gets to participate.
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We've got a cool show for you today. We're excited to have David Lowrie with us. He's our outreach coordinator, one of our outreach coordinators here at the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and Hank Weldon is on Zoom with us today. He's a Bass Nation director, and it's all about high school bass fishing and bass fishing in general today. It's going to be a fun show. Don King is helping me shuffle the cards this morning.
You bet, Jason. Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to hearing what the guys are going to tell us about the high school bass nation here.
Yeah, so I'm excited too. I'm going to learn a lot today. David is fairly new to the agency. Introduce yourself, David, and tell us who you are and what you do, and then we'll jump on with Hank as well.
Again, I'm David Lowrie. I am R3 and project manager for outreach for the Outreach and Communications. We're going out regularly these days to the ponds in the metro areas, trying to bring in new people to fishing. So we've got a first catch trailer coming in soon, but we're going out to these ponds and finding all kinds of people who've never had the opportunity, never had anybody to mentor them, anything like that, to come out and fish. We Tuesday, there was a lady, 38 years old, caught her first fish.
Awesome.
So Mike and I were out there. Of course, Mike Parsley, our assistant chief, we were out there and she caught that. We had a guy in the last week or so, 70 years old and never really fished.
Oh, wow.
And part of me wanted to get him like a lawyer for a lawsuit to help him out. I mean, if you're 70 and you haven't fished, that's just awful. But, we're doing those things with the agency. We're going to work on some hunting things as well, just trying to bring new people into the sport of any age, of any demographic, to bring back people in that maybe, they got out, and we want them to come back in and be part of the hunting, fishing, and shooting family.
And David, you mentioned the R3. That's recruitment, retention, and reactivation.
Exactly.
Right?
So
okay.
Get those new folks in with the recruitment, retain folks, and reactivate folks who have left us for whatever reason. We want them back in. But, I kind of wandered into this through my efforts with Bass Nation and tournament bass fishing for youth. And I've been involved in that for quite some time. I got initially involved with a group called the National Bass Fishing Trail, which is an adult and junior organization. I'm still involved with them. My son Hank and I fish that still. He just finished fourth on the adult side in the Nationals over at Douglas a couple weeks ago.
Awesome.
First time he'd placed on the adult side. He's
cool.
a former junior national champion with them. So Daddy was real proud again. I mean, he's 23. He doesn't really want me to gush that much, but Dad gets emotional about watching him do well.
I bet he can talk some smack to you though when he's on the roll.
He gives me all kinds of grief. He's also a on the road electrician these days, so he's learned how to harass people properly. That and all the Army reunions I've had. But the tournament bass fishing through the school side, I got into in 2011 when Hank was going into high school. And we didn't have a team at the high school, and high school fishing had started a year or two before that, kind of following on the tails of the college fishing. So I got a team started at Grundy County High School so that he'd have the opportunity to chase those scholarships and fish. And then in 2014, the gentleman on the screen over there and the crew in Birmingham decided that they were going to Bassmaster was going to get into high school fishing. which has been the biggest blessing under the sun because
Great.
Bassmaster does a fantastic job, the Bass Nation. We see Hank, but John Stewart's a part of that. John Stewart's the Bass Nation director, and Hank will say things about him too. They do a great job, and we just all kind of started with them in 2014 as they got into it, and Hank will talk a lot about that. And then in 2016, Hank decided he wanted to draft me to be state high school and youth director, and he called me up and told me that he was going to recommend me for that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, maybe. I'm not sure. I said, my Hank's graduated, and he said, well, I'm only making one recommendation. And I said, well, okay, all right, I'll take it. And but I'm going to have a committee, and we did that. We kind of got rolling there. There's a lot to it, but but it's two kids in a boat, and it's a adult captain in the boat with them, and the captain drives the boat. The kids do not drive the boat up and down the lake. The captain drives the boat, and the captain coaches them. But those two kids fish together as a team, and they're fishing for a sack of 5 fish, one sack of 5 fish for that boat, and then they compete against all the other boats that are in the tournament. We're looking, we've got the state high school championship tomorrow and Saturday over at Pickwick, and I think we've got 157 boats in.
Wow.
Now, we've had much bigger. We've had 230, 240 boat tournaments that are just Tennessee tournaments.
Wow.
I knew in the beginning when I started fiddling with it that it was going to grow. So year one that I had it, we just did a statewide trail, and we went to several locations around the state, did 7 tournaments, and then did a championship. And then, like I said, I knew it just couldn't stay like that, so we broke into regions as well. So now we have 5 regions as well as the statewide trail. So there's 6 opportunities, 6 different trails for those kids to fish and chase a spot to go to the national championship with Hank, because they all want to go to the nationals.
Sure.
Just like any other sport, everybody wants to go to the show.
Go to the top.
And for the high school kids, it's the national championship that's been held at Kentucky Lake since the beginning of Bass doing it at Paris Landing, and we'll be back there again in October. Of course, we're normally there in July or August, but COVID's backed everything up, so we're going in October for that. But they're all chasing that slot. And so we have tournaments throughout the year. There's entry fees just like in an adult tournament. We give out scholarship checks. So we write scholarship checks to the kids at the end of the tournament that have won. That's to go in their scholarship account, and we don't care. That's the great thing I like about it. It doesn't matter if they're trying to go to UT or trying to go to Auto Diesel College.
Sure.
They need to buy tools with it.
Education.
It's to advance their education in whatever it is they want to do.
Right.
We do not discriminate with that money.
That's awesome.
And, there's prizes we give away. We've got a lot of wonderful sponsors that are involved with our program that help us with rods and reels and lures and different things to give away. The kids that are coming to the state championship are going to get free T-shirts, and that helps through sponsorship dollars. So there's a lot of that, and we couldn't do it without sponsors. I mean, we all know how it works here too. There's sponsors that help with stuff here.
Sure.
So those kids chase that, and they chase the big fish like everybody else does, and the parents are heavily involved. You don't just have dads that are captains. You got dads, uncles, friends of the family, mamas that are boat captains.
Got some moms, huh?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
The beautiful thing about tournament fishing, especially on the school level, be it college down to the elementary school level, it doesn't discriminate.
Right.
Doesn't care if you're male, female. Doesn't care what color you are, what country you came from, what religion you are. Doesn't care if you're, a little pudgy or tall and skinny. The fish just either bite your hook or they don't. They care whether you're a good fisherman or not.
Yeah.
They don't care who you are. And The best thing to me about high school and youth fishing is if you're on the team, everybody gets to participate. Nobody rides the bench.
Right.
You get to go fish in the tournament. Now, it's the same as other sports in the fact that not everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
You got to go out there and perform.
Got to compete and win.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not. We don't just give stuff away. You've got to go out there and earn it. We posted yesterday. Kids are chasing the big fish prize for the season, and the big fish was caught in the fall at Dayton by
Chickamauga.
By one of the kids from Jefferson County, and it's a 7.78 fish. So if somebody wants to beat that for the year, and there's a $500 scholarship check on that and a big trophy for the big fish of the whole year. If they want to beat that, they got to get me at least a 7.79 this tournament. So
oh wow, he's having
Let's
internet
while
trouble.
he's good.
Yeah, we'll get him while he's good. So Hank, tell us about yourself. Tell us about bass, and we'll start there.
You can hear me now.
Yeah.
exactly.
All right, we switched internet. Been with bass since 2011. I fished in college. Me and my buddy started the Alabama fishing team in the early mid 2006, right when college was just getting going. Took a job just running the college series before high school. We had junior Bassmaster, but it was nothing like our junior platforms now. And with I guess you call it the success of the college series and high school fishing getting up and going around the country, it morphed into manager of all of what we call our youth platforms, which is basically if you're college age or younger at Bass, I oversee all of those platforms there. So that's a quick, broad stroke of my duties here at Bass.
So we've been talking with David about the high school series here in Tennessee, but you're over college, you're over high school, you're over even the youth programs, and these fish year round. So you're probably a pretty busy guy.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique busy right now with all the COVID shuffle, we like to call it here. But it's busy. So the national tournament season really starts about January and finishes up. We actually would have been at the high school national championship this week. But due to like what I call the COVID shuffle, we've pushed everything back to the fall. But then you get through August on a regular year, and then you hit plan mode for the next year and getting ready for that. But all that's our internal or our national events that I oversee. But then you got the whole other side of it, like what David does as the Tennessee Youth Director. They're on the ground in each state, and we actually have them worldwide. We've got 3 or 4 foreign countries now with youth programs. They go all the way to Australia and South Africa. They're on the ground running their in-state tournaments that lead to all of our national stuff. So, yeah, you're right. It's a year-round. It's really, you're looking ahead kind of 2 or 3 years at a time, at certain times, just trying to map out everything for the future. So it's a fun job. It can be work at times, but I love doing it, and like I'm sure you guys do with your work as well.
Yeah, definitely. We've talked about, a little bit about how the history of this thing got started. You said you started in college and kind of got that off the ground, and then you joined the Bassmasters and started working for them and whatnot. But tell us a little bit about the history of how this all got started and how it kind of grew.
Just from college or high school or all the above?
Well, I mean, you've got the college realm. You've had that for a while, but the high schools and the youth's kind of new, a little bit newer, right?
Right, yeah. So, I mean, I can give you a brief history of the whole thing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That's what, I always worry about going overtime. But
we're good.
2005, Jerry McKinnis, you all know who he was. May he rest in peace. Got the idea that he wanted to have a made-for-TV college fishing event. They had a small lake. They invited 5 schools that they knew had fishing clubs to come fish in that event. Stephen F. Austin University out of eastern Texas, Nacogdoches, Texas, won that event. Next year they opened it up because all of us saw it happening. We got really hey, you can't do an invite-only tournament. We need, this should be participation for everybody. So then that got started in 2006, and then you saw FLW come on board. They got a college fishing going for their side in 2008. And then in 2011, Bassmaster acquired what Jerry McInnes started through his production company, because when Jerry McInnes and Don Logan and Jim Copeland bought Bass from ESPN, they also bought with their holdings company Jerry McInnes' production company. So they absorbed that college platform. It was called College Smash Mouth Bass at that point. It had a really cool name.
Yeah.
And then it rolled under the Bassmaster umbrella, and that's when I came over and started running it. So that's how college got going. And then that rocked along for a few years. 2012 was the first time we qualified an angler to go to the Bassmaster Classic. That was Andrew Upshaw from Stephen F. Austin. And really the history is kind of, we're off and running then with the college program. It's changed through the years with like how we qualified to get to the championship and all that good stuff. But, in essence, it was really off and running under the Bassmaster umbrella in 2011 and really took a jump start in 2012. So, and then we saw, TBF, another organization out there, they were running high school fishing tournaments. We're like, this is our next step for our youth platform. So we like, let's do it right. We're gonna start, but we want to, do our research and make sure we're understanding this, because we were going to have to totally scrap our junior program to start our high school platform. It was going to be a clean slate, start over, and start building it from the ground up. And that's what we did. In 2014, it was actually 2013. 2013, my years are running together.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah.
We had a small, what we called an invitation. That was in North Alabama on Lake Wheeler, Tennessee River, and then we rolled it into 2 invitations the next year with a national championship, which would have been 2014, and then it really started picking up steam, because the one thing we had that was working for us is we had a lot of high schools that were already out there with fishing teams. Back when the college series started in the mid 2000s, there weren't teams. That was as big of the challenge we had to do, and I was a student at that point, so I wasn't doing it, but we were having to develop the roadmap of how to form a team, let alone learn how to figure out how to fish with us. So that was the one luxury we had, is we had high school teams that already existed, and we opened up a platform for them to start participating in. And then word of mouth starts taking off, and like what I was saying with college, we were mad because we didn't get to compete and that first year, and that's kind of what happens with high school. Hey, we want to participate in this. And so we set the criteria with all our youth directors. David wasn't around at that point. I think he came in 2 years later. But yeah, we got running with how we felt like it needed to be developed. It's changed several times since then, but that's kind of a brief history of where that started. And then we roll out our junior platform, which is basically junior high. It actually goes all the way down to 7 years old.
Wow, that's good.
16, and now that one's, the next step. So when you turn 7, you have a national or worldwide, really, platform you can fish under the Bassmaster umbrella until you graduate college. Once you're out of college, then you roll into the Opens or the Nation, and you can really fish it until you're 99, 120, however long you live. Fish for under Bassmaster, you can do it.
It's kind of like the sport of golf. You can swing a golf club all your life. You can throw a fishing rod all your life. It's one of those things that you can keep doing and keep doing. One thing that I want to make sure that we hit on, and we've kind of touched on it a little bit while you were trying to get connected, but it's a family event. It's a family sport. It's one thing that, the moms and dads are a part of it. They're out driving the boats. They're boat captains. They're involved. And I know David tells a story all the time about how he didn't want to sit on the sidelines. He didn't want to be the guy in the bleachers. He wanted to be down there with his son, driving the boat, baiting the hook, and that kind of thing. And you're involved with your kids. So tell us how that affects families. I know it has to.
Well,
I think it's huge. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Hank.
Well, I was going to say, my perspective was it was adults introing their kids into fishing, right? So them taking them out. But I'll tell you, I'm actually, and David maybe can attest to this even more, we're actually seeing the reverse. We're seeing kids who have friends in school who are on the fishing team. They've never fished in their life. They fish, but their dad hasn't, or they haven't fished at all. And then they're saying, Dad, I want to do this. Dad goes out and gets a boat and takes it up, and he's introduced to fishing. So it's really from both ends of the spectrum. You're having people who fished all their lives. You're having dads who have never fished, or dads who have fished and introducing their kids to fishing. and vice versa. Kids who are learning it from their friends wanting to join the team, and dads taking it up too. So, I mean, I just love that part. It's introing people to fishing and keeping people in fishing, keeping them interested in it as well.
The thing of it for me, and you guys have heard me say, you heard me in the job interview talk about the fact that, I've been around sports forever. I'm an old high school has-been football player, and I did sports reporting for my county newspaper for 25 years, cable TV and a little radio and all that stuff, and I covered all those other sports. But, if you take your kid to pitching lessons, you sit over here and your kid's pitching, and you're not involved. Now, on the Bassmaster side of things with the school program, the boat captain's not fishing. They're not allowed to fish, but they're allowed to fish with them during practice. And the other organization I talked about, they do get to fish. I mean, Hank and I can fish in the same boat, but we compete against each other in that organization.
Okay.
So throughout his coming up, we were both fishing, and he would net my fish and get excited if I had something good, and if he was ahead of me, he's like, "Well, come on, Dad, you need to get your 5 too," things of that nature. But I got so much one-on-one time with my child because of tournament fishing. The month before, or the week before we were taking him to college, I was struggling with the fact that he was fixing to leave. Daddy's best friend was going to be gone, and I wasn't doing well with it at all. I was having a real hard time. And we'd gone out to the lease that we were on to check our spots and this, that, and the other on the weekend before we were taking him to school. The last spot was his way down a hill. And I'm like, yeah, I ain't fighting that hill, son. You go ahead. So he gets out of his truck, pulls his 30-30 off the rack in the back in case there's coyotes. And I watch this grown man walking down the hill. And, of course, I just get pitiful. Just pitiful. And I can't kind of gain my composure before he comes back up the hill, but he gets in the truck. Of course, I know my face is red. He just looks at me, starts half cackling, reaches over and pats me on the back. And he said, "You know what, Dad?" And I said, "What, son?" He said, "I've had a great childhood." And I attribute that to tournament bass fishing because the amount of time I got to be with him, go to tournaments all over the countryside, week-long events with NBT and hotel and all that. And now these kids get it with going to national events with bass. And, of course, all of them thrive to get to the nationals and hang out with Hank for a week.
Yeah.
So it's unreal. It's life-changing to me.
Well, I think one thing that we want to make sure we cover, we're going to run out of time, is how to be a part of this. We don't want to let that slip by. So if somebody wants to be a part of the high school bass tournament or any kind of college, high school, youth, whatever, where do they start? How do they find out about it? How do they start a program? And Hank, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so we try to make it easy. It can be confusing. It confuses me at times. But the easiest thing they can do is go to Bassmaster.com, click on the high school tab, and we try to walk you through it as best as we can. But the first thing you got to do is want to have an interest in fishing, and that's usually the step that gets them to our page. But for the nation, I mean, I'll have a kid email me, "Hey, I go to this high school and interested in starting a club." Now, my first question back is, "What state do you live in?" And we'll use Tennessee as the example. And so they'll say Tennessee. I'll be like, okay. Well, then I'll reply back. I'll say I've copied the youth director, David Lowrie, and David can jump in there. And we go through, here's what you have to do to be a national member, to start your team, etc. And then David jumps in there and says, here's what we have going on in the state of Tennessee, all these tournaments, all these different functions you can attend. And get you off and running. It's very easy. There's a small membership fee you pay. It's $20 a person. That's discounted from what an adult would pay. And really, the one thing that is tough in fishing is you have to have either have a boat, have access to a boat, or have your partner who has a boat to fish. Now, it doesn't have to be the biggest nitro, skeeter, whatever it is on the water. It can be a 16-foot bass boat from 1972. It's got to be 16 feet in length, and it'll get you out on the water, So that's what we try to do there. But
I've always said, if your neighbor has a boat, there's no need in me owning a boat.
Yeah, just chip in a little gas, buddy.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, and it's cheap right now.
Yeah.
So-
well, and the other thing too, Jason, is if they contact straight to him and they don't get a hold of me, he'll plug me in, and then I've gone to plenty schools to their family meetings in the evening or whatever, and given them the details, because when I started Grundy's team, we were, it was still in its infancy, and the other organization wasn't. They didn't get. Hank jumped in where in 2015 I started a contracted trail with them, to where we signed a contract to follow their guidelines and then 2015, 2016 we had those trails in the spring. Before that, we had no opportunity to do more elaborate things. So we had to come up with our own. So in the very beginning in 2011, it was myself at Grundy County, it's Coach Durlack at Ray County, Coach Sims at White County. We were like trade off. Well, I'll host one at Center Hill and I'll get some trophies and some stuff. And and Durlack would be like, well, I'll host it at Chickamauga at Dayton. And I'd be like, I'd host it Nickajack. And we did that with each other to get them opportunity to fish more, because we didn't just want to wait for the state championship to show up once a year.
Sure.
And then Hank and them jump in and give us the chance to do contracted trails that had to be at least 4 tournaments. So we had pretty big trails those 2 springs before he drafted me to be state director. And it's easy now, because all they got to do is get their team going, and we'll show them how. They don't have to worry about creating tournaments. We got enough tournaments to choke them to death.
Well, this has been great. Let's wrap it up, and let's tell folks how to. Bassmaster.com is where you can start. Is there a website or something in Tennessee that you could hit?
A lot of what we put out with Tennessee, it's on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/TBN Youth.
Okay.
The majority of the info that gets out, we also have another page too, but that you can get all plugged in from there and keep up with the most current information at the TBN Youth.
Cool.
And if you want to start a school team, get a hold of me. I can come out and visit. We'll plan it out. I mean, this job's got me traveling in lots of different parts of the state.
Yeah.
So I can maybe coordinate it with doing an event for work.
Yeah.
And go out and visit. Hank is a busy guy, and he has to take a whole lot of phone calls. So all the state directors try to take as many off of him as possible.
Yeah.
But Hank's available, and you send messages. Hank, John Stewart, the people at the Bass Nation will go out of their way to help you. I feel like a member of that family, and I was at the Classic in March. Kind of helped and volunteered and stuff.
Yeah.
And got to go to the Toast of Champions. After Hank Cherry won it. So I'm in the room where they're toasting champagne, and I felt like I was exactly one of them, even though I'm not a Bassmaster employee. That's how they make you feel.
Awesome.
So it's a great group to be involved with. I am Bass and Bass Nation till I die. I'm all about. I used to get the magazine when I was little and loved watching reading Harry and Charlie and all that cool stuff. So I am so proud to be involved with this, and I'm so thankful that Hank's there, because again, Hank and I have become very good friends, as well as all this work.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, Hank, I want to say thanks to you for coming on and fighting the internet connections, and it's been great to have you on, and we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, I'm happy to be there. And I just noticed David's talked about Hank, and he's been talking about 3 different people through this whole interview.
A lot of Hanks in his life.
There might be some confusion there, but no, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all the work you're doing there in Tennessee, and keep up the good work. Remember out there, take a kid fishing, because it could change their life forever.
Hey,
Exactly.
I couldn't say it better myself.
Man, that's a good wrap up.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is Tennessee WildCast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.